Namaste Saraswati Devi Bhagavate Prachadane Namaste Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srimati Gauranga Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Krishna Shrutam Namjayana Sandhise Samsritim Shatmana Tatra Vidvansa Visham Sudam Asadbudva Namjayana Sandhise Samsritim Shatmana Tatra Vidvansa Dristam Sudam Asadbudva Namjayana Sandhise Samsritim Shatmanasam cha Tatra Vidvansa Atmadru Dristam Sudam Asadbudva Namjayana Sandhise Samsritim Shatmanasam cha Tatra Vidvansa Atmadru Dristam Shrudam Asadbudva Namjayana Sandhise Samsitim Chatmanasam cha Tatra Vidvansa Atmadrik Dristam Shrudam Asadbudva Namjayana Sandhise Samsritam Chatmanasam cha Tatra Vidvansa Atmadrik Dristam Shrudam Asadbudva Namjayana Sandhise Samsritam Chatmanasam cha Tatra Vidvansa Atmadrik Drishtam, material enjoyment we experience in our present life.
The material enjoyment we experience in our present life.
Shrutam, material enjoyment as promised to the fruit of workers.
Material enjoyment as promised to the fruit of workers.
Or future happiness.
Or future happiness. Asad.
All temporary.
Anudhyaya.
One should even think. Sandhise should actually enjoy.
Samsritam.
Prolongation of material existence. And Atmanasam. Forgetfulness of one's own constitutional position.
Forgetfulness of one's own constitutional position.
As well as Tatra. In such a subject matter. One who is completely aware. Such a person. Atmadru. Self-realized soul. Translation: one who knows that material happiness, whether good or bad, in this life or the next, on this planet or heavenly planets, is temporary or useless, and that an intelligent person should not try to enjoy or even think of such things as the knower of the self. Such a self-realized person who knows quite well that material happiness is the very cause of continued material existence and forgetfulness of one's own constitutional position. Purport of the spirit soul and the material body is his engagement, the beginning of spiritual understanding. Maybe goes to die. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youthful old age, the soul similarly passes into another body of death. The self-realized soul is not willing but such a change. The real mission of human life is to get free from the engagement in the material body. Therefore, Krishna descends to teach the conditioned soul about spiritual realization and how to become free from material bondage. The word dharmasya, pollution of one's existence. Our existence is now polluted and it must be purified. The human life is meant for this purification, not for gaining happiness in terms of external body, which is the cause of material bondage. Therefore, in this verse, Maharaj advises that whatever material happiness we see and whatever is promised for enjoyment is all merely temporary and temporary. Even if one is promoted to Brahmaloka, if one is not freed from material bondage, one must return to this planet Earth and continue in the visible condition of material existence. One should always keep this understanding in mind so as not to be allured by any kind of sense enjoyment in this life or in the next. One who is fully aware of this truth is self-realized, but aside from that, everyone suffers in the cycle of birth and death. This understanding is the one of true intelligence, and anything contrary to this is but a cause of unhappiness. Only a Krishna-conscious person who knows the aim and object of life is peaceful. Others, whether karmis, gangs, or yogis, are restless and cannot enjoy peace. Sukadeva Goswami said after speaking in this way to his wife, Devayani, King Yadaki, who is now free from all material desires, called his youngest son Kuru in return Kuru's youth in exchange for his own old age. King Yadaki gave the southeast to his son Drukyu, the south to his son Yadu, the west to his son Turvastu, and the north to his son Bhanu. In this way, he divided the kingdom. Yati enthroned his youngest son Kuru as the emperor of the entire world and the proprietor of all its riches, and he placed all the other sons who were older than Kuru under Kuru's control. Translation: one who knows that material happiness, whether good or bad, is in this life or in the next, or on this planet or on heavenly planets, is temporary and useless, and that an intelligent person should not try to enjoy or even think of such things as in the world of self. Such a self-realized person knows quite well that the material happiness is the very cause of continued material existence, yet one is a one's own constitutional position. So this is the conclusion of Yati's statement to his wife after 1,000 years. So it appears that after 1,000 years he finally realized that this material happiness was actually useless, and therefore he gave back his youth to his youngest son and got his old age again, so he could not enjoy anyway. And thus he practiced what he preached, that is that material happiness is actually a cause of delusion in this material world, and therefore we should give it up as quickly as possible. This, of course, is not an absolute position. It's a temporary realization, because we saw in the previous verse that actually he said, "I'll go and meditate on the Supreme Lord and wander in the forest." So getting free of material happiness and rejecting the material body, understanding the Atma is one stage. And the other stage is realizing the Supreme Lord. So there's two aspects to spiritual life. And they're not necessarily separate. However, because this endeavor in the material world to get material happiness is so strong, there is often a first step, that is Atmagyan. You're not this material body. So that is why we have a whole section of Jnana in the Upanishads, rejection of the material body and material existence. And so this statement here is actually one of a statement about rejection of the material body and material happiness and understanding the Atma. So it is one step, and for most people it is a big step to make, because most people don't think of anything except using this body to somehow survive and get some enjoyment. Whether one is India or any other country in the world, basically everyone is striving to get some money so they can enjoy something in this material world. So they don't think about Atma or the Supreme Lord. So the first step is to understand we're not the body, and therefore a lot of endeavor of the scripture goes into analyzing the situation of material happiness and distress and its temporary nature, and then rejecting it in favor of Atma. And this is actually the strategy of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So he begins with telling Arjuna, you're not the body, you're the soul, and you go from body to body, so therefore birth and death really have no meaning. And you should not be attached to your body or your position, or to even killing other people, because it's all bodies and it's not the Atma. So this is often the first position in spiritual life, to understand we're not the body. And along with that, we get the emphasis upon temporary material world, how useless is the temporary happiness of this world. So that, of course, is the whole purpose of this system of Varnashram, to elevate us to the position where we can get this realization. So generally it will not happen for a person in Tamil or Rajaguna. It will more or less naturally happen for a person in Sattva-guna. So the quality of Sattva-guna is Atma-jnana. One understands we're not the material body, we are Atma, and we get some satisfaction from that. So that is what's meant by the quality, and the two qualities of Sattva-guna are knowledge, that we're Atma, and satisfaction or happiness. The satisfaction comes from understanding we're not the body, and that we are Atma, so we get our happiness within rather than outside. So this will naturally arise in Sattva-guna. Unfortunately, very few people are in Sattva-guna. Most people are in Rajaguna and Tamaguna. So therefore, it's very difficult for them to come to this realization. You can preach to them, you're not the body, you're not the body, but it doesn't work. So in Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna says, do not disturb the mind of the intelligent people by telling them that you're not the body and you should renounce everything in favor of jnana. Don't do that. Simply engage in karma yoga. Action, regulated action, and by which they will gradually advance. So that is why the whole system is there, to come up with this position of sattva and then realize such a thing. But, as I said, that makes this type of knowledge unavailable to most people in the material world. Maybe 3% of the people, 2% of the people will be in sattva-guna, and the rest of the people, they have to go through this whole system forever. So it's a solution, definitely, but it's rather a long, drawn-out affair over many, many births, and it's only available to a limited number of people in a particular society in one lifetime. So that's the drawback. This is very limited. So the other process is the process of bhakti. Everybody can do bhakti. You don't have to come to Sattva to realize you're not the body or the Atma, etc. Everybody can engage in the worship of the Lord, provided we have faith. So the whole problem then is to instill faith in people, in the gunas, because most people are not in Sattva. They're in Rajaguna and Tamaguna. And as I mentioned the other day, for the performance of bhakti, the other qualification is not too much attachment to material enjoyment. You can have the material attachment. You don't have to reject everything, but you can't have too much. So, therefore, there is some condition also for bhakti, faith, and not too much material attachment. So these are the two conditions. How do we, therefore, produce faith in Tamaguna people or Rajaguna people, or even Sattva-guna people? So that is the process of exposure to bhakti. On the one hand, we say don't preach to the faithless people. This is an aparama. So the way we preach is by exposing them to the process of bhakti. Let them see the form of the Lord, let them hear the name of the Lord, let them take prasada, let them accidentally serve the Lord or whatever. Somehow, let them do that. And by accumulation of these accidental types of bhakti, they get their faith. So that is the first process of preaching. So Lord Chaitanya has said, therefore, the easiest method in bhakti of engagement is let them hear the name. And therefore, I said, everybody go out and chant, let everybody hear the name. And then they hear the name, or they say the name, or whatever, and gradually by that exposure, they get faith. And when they get faith, then they can seriously practice bhakti. So this is available to everyone. So that arousal of faith is not dependent on gunas. It doesn't mean that a person in sattva guna is going to develop more faith than a person in tama guna. That's the remarkable nature of faith in bhakti. It does not depend on the gunas. Again, depends on the gunas. Only when you come to sattva, when you can realize you're not the body. So, the process of bhakti is that somehow or other it works for people, anyone in the material world, and that is why it's a more practical process. If we have a choice of either follow the ashram system or bhakti, then the choice is always bhakti. If we have to do one or the other. Usually, the devotees and the manus and their descendants do both. As you see here, the yatis, for the previous verse, he's talking about meditating on the Supreme Lord in the forest, going to Vrindavan or something like this. So that's a devotional process. Along with that, he's following this whole process of renunciation, taking vanaprastha, and renouncing everything. So we can do simultaneously, or if we can't do both, then the choice is always do bhakti. So this is applicable to all yugas, whether it's Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, or Kali Yuga. But because in Kali Yuga, the whole system of varnashram is not intact anyway, the greater emphasis is always given to the process of bhakti, and particularly chanting the name. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya said that not only is the Yuga Dharma, but it's the only process we should do in Kali Yuga is chant the name of the Lord. So by chanting, we get benefit because it's sadhana, and by chanting, people hear. And even though we don't directly preach to them, this helps them get faith. And once they get faith, then we can directly preach to them, and they can begin the process of seriously chanting, etc. So therefore, the Nam Sankirtan is a very, very special process, which is very apt for the people of Kali Yuga. So, along with that, of course, is that one will develop this type of realization. As I said, the qualifications, we shouldn't be too materially attached. So, once we develop faith, no matter what guna we're in, and then we begin practicing bhakti, naturally we develop detachment. Why? Because the process of attachment to the Supreme Lord naturally produces detachment from material environment. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that if you have a higher taste, you give up the lower taste. So the lower taste is senses contacting sense objects, and we think that this is very nice. That's the taste we get. Higher taste is the Atma connects with the Supreme Lord and serves Him. That gives rise to happiness, spiritual happiness. So that taste increases with the process of bhakti. So in the beginning, it is very little. And that attraction to material happiness is a lot. But through the sadhana of bhakti, gradually the strength of bhakti increases and increases, attraction for Krishna increases, and happiness increases, taste increases, and consequently the attachment to material happiness decreases. So as long as the material attraction is more, we have to struggle. Because we'll always be thinking, oh, why do I have to stop my material activities? Why do I have to engage in these activities? I'd rather go out and enjoy it. But when the attraction for Krishna becomes more, and the attraction for material things becomes less, there's no longer any struggle. We begin to forget about the material activities more and more, and of course this increases, the attraction for Krishna increases, and satisfaction increases, the attraction for material things becomes insignificant. That's a very good stage to be at. So that's where we get Nishtha, Ruchi, and Asakti in sadhana. So these are very healthy stages to reach in the process of bhakti. If we're struggling, constantly struggling, then we're actually at an unsteady stage, Anishita bhakti. If we're going through, Bhajan Kriya and Martin of Britain, and not reduce the anarthas enough. And the attraction for Krishna is not sufficient, so therefore we can't have Nishtha because of that. So, therefore the endeavor of the devotee should be at least to get to the stage of Nishtha, where he does not have to struggle to carry out the very principles of bhakti. Rather, very easily he can do those things. So, in doing so, then naturally he develops this detachment of material things. If he comes to the stage of Bhava, then he actually can see the Supreme Lord. And in the stage of Bhava, Ahankara, ignorance, are completely destroyed. Which means, technically, he is already beyond the material body. He is not only beyond the gross body, thinking about the body, he's beyond the subtle body also, including the Ahankara. So technically he's liberated in the bottom stage. So then naturally he comes to this Atma Jnana stage or Atma stage naturally through the process of bhakti. So there's no separate endeavor to attain what the Jnani attains. However, though he gets this realization that the body is actually the soul and is liberated, because he sees the Supreme Lord and serves the Supreme Lord directly, he understands that realization of the Lord is much greater than the realization of mere Atma. So therefore one quality of Bhava Bhakti is moksha libhutakrit. He regards liberation as very insignificant because he's developed a relationship with the Lord, and that there's more satisfaction and more bliss than simply realizing we're not the body and contentment of being Atma. So, though this is a stage, understanding Atma, etc., is one stage, it is included within the process of bhakti, but it's also regarded as insignificant in comparison to realizing the Lord. To realize the Lord, you have to realize the Atma. We cannot realize the Lord with material eyes and material mind. It can only be done by the Atma. The Atma has to have spiritual senses to perceive the form of the Lord and to hear the Lord, etc. In the spiritual senses. So these belong to the Atma. So if we're going to realize the Lord naturally, we're also aware of our spiritual identity at that time. But not only spiritual identity, spiritual form with senses, body, etc., which is not available to the person who simply discards his material body, grows so subtle, and ends up as Atma, Brahman. So, therefore, the process of bhakti includes this idea of not being the body, etc. But to preach to the people in the material world, sometimes, and to discourage them from engaging too much in material happiness, we can show them the temporary nature of everything material and the permanent nature of Atma, etc., as Krishna does in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So they can be useful, but our main goal is not particularly that. It's actually to serve the Supreme Lord. And when we serve the Supreme Lord, so we naturally realize the atma as well. So whatever good, positive results come from jnana, it's also there in bhakti. That is freedom from material world, birth and death, karma, etc., happiness and distress. Freedom from ignorance that waiting for the material body, freedom from karma, and all this samsara, etc. That's naturally there for the devotee as well. But the devotee gets more than the jnani gets because he realizes the Supreme Lord. So not only he's free from material energy, but he realizes the Lord and serves the Lord in a spiritual body. So not only discards the gross and subtle bodies, he develops or manifests a spiritual body to serve the Lord. So this is a little bit different from what the jnani attains, something more. The end result is that the devotee experiences superior bliss in his relationship with the Lord. So therefore, why does the person in Bhava think that moksha is so insignificant? Because the experience of bliss in serving the Lord is thousands of times greater than the bliss of realizing the Atma in liberation. It's much, much more. So therefore, the process of realizing the Atma is actually included within the process of bhakti, but it's a secondary factor, and the main factor is to serve the Supreme Lord. So Yayati here realizes both things. He's in previous verses he says, I want to meditate upon the Supreme Lord. So that's the devotional aspect. And detachment from material things through his experience of 1,000 years, that he's willing to give all these things up also and understand these. So he has both levels in his realization.
The concept of happiness and distress itself is something intellectual or mental.
No, it's an experience that people have.
Some people experience the distress and say that it is happiness. Sadness.
Not many people. Only crazy people. Like a drunkard maybe. But people get burned, they don't say that's happiness or whatever. Now people may do tapasya voluntarily, which is a type of pain. They don't actually enjoy it, but they endure it because they want to get some other higher result. And so the yogis do tapasyas because they want to get some siddhis or something like that. Chronikasti who does tapasya, which is a great endeavor and painful to the body, standing on his toes for 1,000 years because he wants to get that blessing from Brahma or whatever. So some people, they do that. They don't enjoy the pain, but they endure it because of another result they get. So in the material world also people do the same thing. They work hard every day for 18 hours, every day for 50 years because they want to get some money. So they don't like the work, but they endure it. They tolerate that work. It's a painful work, but they do it anyway because they want to get that money, and that's their enjoyment. So they will tolerate suffering in order to get a little material enjoyment. So they do have a concept of happiness and distress in the material world, based of course upon the material body. But nevertheless, the idea of pain in the material body is not pleasing for anyone, unless they're in a complete illusion or something.
How can we negate that the same type of endurance is not carried out in bhakti? The same type of endurance is not carried out in bhakti.
Well, the endurance of bhakti is that we perform these processes of bhakti, which in the beginning will be, in a sense, painful because we're more attracted to material things, and therefore we have to tell ourselves, have to do this, have to do this, have to do this. As long as we're not a nishta, then before that, then we have to do that, we have to tolerate. And if we don't have that toleration and determination to do it, then we will fail also.
निरंतरास्य श्रीमद्